Hello and welcome back to another episode of Mystery Red Reads. I'm your host, Mystery Red, and this is my disclaimer. This beta read in Concord is at the author's request. This video is for learning purposes. If you're new here, please like, subscribe, or comment on a video. I do beta reads and Concords in video format so you can experience hearing your story read out loud and reader reaction. This combination provides a beta read in a truly unique format. I do both public and private videos. If you think you might be interested in a read but don't want it to be public, fear not, I do private reads. First chapters are free. I do have a playlist for all of my repeat authors that are public read, so you can go back and follow a story from the beginning. Now, business aside, let's dive in. Today we're looking at a piece of original fiction. We are back with Dawn Trike and No Name Shattered, Chapter 2. This is, I think, read 7. This is read 7. And we are going to, let's see, we're going to take off my highlight and we're going to dive right in here. Now, I did just do a read for Dawn Trike today earlier, and I'm doing another one because next week is spring break and I will not be doing reads. I will be out of town. So here we go. His stomach growled with a longing impatience that was equal parts hunger and pain. Looking to settle that deep rumble, he placed his dirty hands on it again, putting the apple stem between two fingers. He walked back, the branch pulled down slowly, unwilling to let the fruit go. "Let's go, stupid." His tongue was sandpaper in his mouth. "It's just an apple. It's not this hard." Okay, let go, let go. I think we want let go. That's why I tripped up on that. And then I'm kind of like hung up on the adverb. I don't really want it in there. He walked back. The branch pulled down. But he's not, I get that he's not pulling it down fast. Like, he didn't just grab it and yank it down. I'm going to leave it. And I think I just tripped up on this because this part right here. So let me just read this line again. "Let go, stupid." His tongue was sandpaper in his mouth. "It's just an apple. It's not this hard." He hated how weak he was. An infant could do this, he thought. Stop being a moron. With one last step, he heard a light snap at the branch sprung back. Looking at the apple in his palms, he hesitated to appreciate his prize in all of its majesty before shoving his face into his hands, taking as large of a bite as he could, leaving a streak of blood on its white meat. Okay, gross. It's a long sentence, and I was starting to think it's a long sentence maybe here, and but if it ended here, I probably would have been okay, but then it went on further. I would suggest just leaving this detail out. You've got a lot going on in that sentence, and I was with the visual. I kind of didn't need a little bit on the end. Let's see. It was ambrosia as the taste flooded his mouth. Minutes later, the only thing left were a lone seed and a mixture of juice and blood in one hand. For the first time, he felt like things were normal before yet again another pang from deep within his stomach caused him to hunch over. So I'm like, is this dude stabbed? Is his blood coming out? He's got some internal injury. Did this happen when he fell? I'm just like, what is happening to this man? Now, this is still kind of fresh in my mind because, like, I did 3 reads, and then I just did a 4th read as I'm reading for 3 authors right now. I did my 3 reads. This was I think this might have been the first or second one I did today. I think this was the second one. And now I'm back to this story. So it's still kind of fresh in my mind today. Usually there's a whole week, and like sometimes I've got 5 or 6 authors I'm reading for at one time. And so I'll forget the details. But this one's still pretty fresh in my mind. And I remember this guy like has fallen. He's another guy that's fallen from the sky. We don't really know who he is yet. He's injured really badly. And so I'm kind of like, I can't believe he's like eating. I mean, I can get that he's starving, and it is a source of water. Because in my last read, I think I remembered him thinking he was going to die if he didn't find water. But there is, juice in the apple, so it is hydrating. But at the same time, he's so hurt. I'm kind of surprised that he's eating. But anyway, let's just keep. Those are all reader musings. Absolutely nothing, no suggestions or anything. Those are reader thoughts. Let's get back in here. Damn, this is getting bad. I can't keep this up forever. Okay, so he had a thought, and then you're telling me he had a thought. I kind of don't want you to do that. I just want you to be like, make this a period and go on with his next action. He hobbled through the apple woods. He hobbled through the orchard. Orchard? I think we want orchard. Okay. The further he walked, the less he felt of his arms and legs, unable to lift them high enough to reach another apple. He cursed the fish and himself for what had happened. Fish? What? He cursed the fish. What? What fish? Hang on. What fish? Oh boy. Did I miss something? I feel like I missed something. Or are we getting ready to find something out? We could be getting ready to find something out. I'm just going to put, what? What fish? But this might be answered in my next paragraph, but my reader brain is immediately alerted. This is news to me. Okay. He cursed the fish and himself for what had happened. I am so unbelievably fucking stupid, he thought. Scanning the woods for shelter, his vision blurred. He blinked, correcting it, and noticed a gray shape in the distance, one that stood out among the brown of the tree trunks around it. Please let that be anything with a roof. With nowhere else to go, he pushed his legs toward the gray shape, barely able to lift them. His feet scraped the ground at them. Okay, it either needs a comment, or I was going to read it as his feet scraped the ground. But I'm kind of wondering. I feel like he was just having the same action where he just could barely move. Yeah, like here he is. He's pulling that slowly. He hated how he moved. Like he's hating how weak he is. This dude is just dragging. Okay. So it continues. I'm just making sure there's no, like, I'm not overlooking any kind of duplication I need to mark out. I think it's just continuation of his struggle. All right. The shape became clear, a small shack. Its walls were splintering gray wood. Leaning on it he was ignorant of the slivers it gave him as the small building creaked. Oh, I'm cringing. Slowly, he circled it, finding a door held on a single rusty hinge. The numbing man tried to lift his hand to open the door, but could no longer get it past his waist. Instead, has he been poisoned? Is he I'm like, okay, I'm trying to figure out what's happened to him. Like, I know that he fell from the sky, but he's losing sensation in his body. He's throwing up blood. I'm like, has he been poisoned? I'm just trying to read her thoughts in the back of my head, trying to muse out what has happened to this guy. How long is he going to last? What's going to happen to him? Is he going to find help? So many questions. I have to keep reading to find out the answers. Let's keep going. Instead, he put his shoulder into the door, opening it. Oh, we got slowly again. Okay, so let's go ahead and mark our adverbs. This I'm going to do in bright blue. Nope, it's too dark. I don't want it. Let's go with green. I don't know what I was using earlier, and I don't want to kind of like... How about a softer blue? Okay. And then, there's another one right there. I feel like I overlooked some... I've been, like, letting some adverbs go so that I'm not being super nitpicky and, like, petty, you know? Because there's barely in here, too. Like, I just saw... There's barely. I'm going to highlight that one just to point it out to you that I'm not being petty, because I did not point this out. I was letting some of them go, but I'm definitely not going to not point out the same exact one in close proximity. This is a little more concerning to me than this one, and I actually kind of liked use of this one because it really lent to his struggle, and the speed in which he was moving was relevant to the struggle. Okay, so let's get back down here. Instead, he put his shoulder into the door, opening it slowly as flecks of dust and dirt fell from the hinge. The sound of rats scurrying to escape the new intruder didn't bother him. Inside was dusty and dark, save for the light coming through the doorway. Immediately, we know it's immediate because it's happening right now. We're in the moment with him. He noticed an array of rusty farm tools on the opposite wall between shovels and a ladder and multiple saws. Just beneath them was a chair that was more wrought than wood that sat next to the most glorious thing to him, 2 old bales of hay. Could be worse. Shuffling over to the hay, he convinced himself this didn't look like the place a murderer used to kill their victims. The moment his legs touched the bales, he fell back onto them. Okay. So I kind of thought he was going to think it was a bed or treat it like a bed. His standards are pretty low. And, you know, he sees it as a glorious thing. So I kind of wonder what his standards were before all of this happened to him, because he already, you know, could be worse, you know, but he's not complaining, all right? So right here, this sentence was a little bit wordy in the sense that I tripped over it. And part of the reason I think is we have, this didn't look like the. That's a lot of words that I think we could pare this down or reword it and make it nice and tight, and it would read a little bit better. Shuffling over to the hay, he convinced himself this wasn't a place murderers used to kill their victims. See, I just kind of like eliminated some of these words. However you reword it, this is the problem area right here, and that will solve your problem. I'm just going to say musing and video, and we're going to keep going. A small rest should help. The rest? This dude has got something wrong with him, and I don't know what it is, but so far ignoring it has not paired well for him. And I don't know if you need a doctor or something, my friend. You need some kind of healer or something. I don't know that. I mean, rest is it's not going to be bad for you, but I have to wonder if you're internally bleeding. You're in need of assistance, sir. All right, let's keep going. A small rest should help, the dirty, blood-soaked amnesiac thought. It took only one breath and a slow blink before the man was unconscious, paying no mind to the hay prodding his back or the possibility of spiders and rats climbing on him. All that mattered was the rest he desired. He slept. I would omit this. You just don't need it. It's not helping you. He slept, his purple skin covered in cracked, dry mud. His right hand rested on his stomach. Upon it was a tattoo of a dark line that bowed to the right, glowing with golden light, and only a quarter filled in as though it had been emptied. Interesting. Interesting. So what does this mean? Are they all parts of something? Like, I feel like the other guy had a marking on him too. I can't remember what it was. This is interesting. Okay. So now we're into a new part of a chapter. We're only 12 minutes in this video, so I'm going to go ahead and continue at chapter 2-4, as we are still in chapter 2. If it was chapter 3, I would stop to keep the chapters completely separate, but we're going to keep going. Sorry. A blood-covered man got out, bloody spittle coming from his mouth as he scrambled to his feet, kicking up dirt and taking off towards a nearby alleyway. Geez, some people are always in a hurry. Natalie picked herself up and dusted off her sundress. What exactly can someone be in such a rush for that they have to crash into people? She asked, picking up the blankets and clothes. Well, whatever it was, I hope it's nothing bad. Would be a real shame. Isn't that right, Rafe? I wondered if that was Natalie because of the yellow sundress. And I didn't say anything, but there was a moment in my mind from the yellow sundress that I wondered if it was her. And I should have said something then, but this just confirmed it. Yeah. I kind of want, but so he doesn't, and now, so the other part of my reader brain is going, all right, so whoever this guy is that just ran into her, apparently, I'm going to keep reading to find this out, but I'm immediately wondering, Rafe doesn't know him because he came through her ceiling the same way this dude fell from the sky. What is going on? Who are these people? Where did they come from? Do they know each other? Do they not? I want to keep reading because that's my question. That's my next question. I'm going to see if I get an answer to it. Rafe, she looked at him when he didn't respond, now in a pair of jeans, simple shirt, and clean. His hair was a light gray, balding ever so slightly at the front, his body closer to pale as if he had not seen the sun in a few seasons. He sat on his knees in horror, looking in the direction the man had gone. No need to get angry, she advised. You gotta let that stuff go. After all, you can't just... Rafe, in a flash, stood and picked her up over his shoulder, running in a panic down the street in the opposite direction. So he does know. Or either he knows who he is or he knows something about him. He recognized him. So what's going to happen? Let's keep going. Rafe, what are you doing? We have to go, Rafe said. I don't think we get that. With a rush in his voice. I'm kind of wondering if we could do something stronger right there. I'm going to say this. I may have mentioned before in some of my other videos, Angela Ackerman's like emotional amplifiers, and there's like facial descriptions and just all kinds of these really helpful, handy list books that I used to use all the time. I have like 2 or 3 of them in my Kindle. Nowadays, I just go to Pinterest and I'll type in word lists, and I'll type in other words for voices or words to describe voices, and Pinterest will present me with lists, and I can look at the list and quickly get some choices so that I don't have to spend a whole lot of time pining over it. I can think of what the tone of voice was I wanted to imply, and I can swap it out quickly. So I'm not going to say anything about this. We're just going to keep going. Go where? Back to your house. Anywhere but here, he said in a panic. Why? He went silent as he ran, a look of fear on his face. Wait. He flipped her over his shoulder, didn't he? Yeah, so she can't see his face. His actions are showing me his fear, so it's okay if you take that out and I don't see his face. And I know you're looking to trim words anyway, so I would do that. Hang on just a second. All right, so we're in trying to think about that point of view. This is going to be, he went silent as he ran. That could still be with Natalie's point of view. My brain wants to attach the first person that spoke, which I think was Natalie, as the point of view that we're in. So there's that to keep in mind. He went silent as he ran, trying to retrace their steps. Okay, she wouldn't know what he's trying to do because he's not communicating that. So what you could do is omit this and say retracing their steps, because she would recognize that that he was doing that. She wouldn't know his intention to do it, but she would recognize that he was doing it. And as she's flopped over his shoulder, she can't see his face. So he went silent as he ran, retracing their steps, his mind seeing flashes of things that he wished he had never remembered. An older woman beating him while that man told him to never fight back. Okay, pausing. So we are definitely switching point of view, which is fine as long as it's intended and you realize that it is a mid-chapter switch. So I'm just observing a point of view change right here. And that's just an observation. Do what you want with that information. And we're going to keep going. And now we're wondering who this man was to him, but apparently he wasn't anything good. To him, Natalie was light, carrying her like a farmer throwing a bag of potatoes over his shoulder. Again and again, Natalie tried to get Rafe's attention, calling his name for minutes before he finally set her down. Okay, so I'm kind of wondering if the guy whose point of view, the last guy, who we don't know who he was, but he was like throwing up blood and seriously injured and like eating an apple and whatever and sleeping on hay now. I'm starting to wonder if he isn't like the villain or something because of what Rafe's memory of him is. It's not good. It's not good. So what role is that dude going to play? Okay. Reader thoughts, and my author will appreciate them. Let's keep going. She huffed, upset by what had just happened. All right. What was all of that about? We still had to get you something to put on those feet of yours. Here I am trying to help you, and you just take off down the street with me on your shoulder like I'm some sort of prize. And this isn't even close to my house. We had to leave, he said in a fright. Why? That was him. Him who? The man that kidnapped me, he yelled. Those around stared at the sudden outburst. He grabbed the clothing and blanket as they continued to walk. Natalie looked shocked, keeping up right beside him. That man? How do you know? One look, and I could tell. He looked just like me. Are you sure? It happened so fast I couldn't tell what he looked like. She looked back. Oh, we've got lots of looking. Let's highlight our looking, and we're going to keep going. I like what's happening in the story. Let's get these things out of our way. All right. Are you sure? It happened so fast I couldn't tell what he looked like. She looked back, hoping to see exactly that, but they were too far, and the man long gone. I saw some red, though. We need to get out of here. I can't risk him having seen me. I think we need another quotation mark right there. Now, hold on. We can just tell the guards and they'll... No guards, Rafe snapped. Another crowd of people stared at the couple once again, Natalie looking insulted by it. Rafe sighed and calmed himself. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to yell, but we can't just tell them that a man that looks like me kidnapped me. They'll start asking questions that I have no answers to, and I'll end up looking crazy. And if they look into today, I can't have them looking into the doctor and you and... Rafe looked away, hesitating to say more as he tried to make sense of it. Okay, so we gotta go back here, and we're doing orange on our little echoes. I do like the action of what's happening. There's another one right there. Oh my goodness, and another one right there. Okay. Oh, and another one right there. At this point, I would probably do a search for this in case I missed some, but that's quite a few in a very small space. We're going to keep going. Natalie saw the pained look on his face. Okay, so now we're switching point of view to Natalie. I'm not going to have an opinion on the head hopping. I'm just going to note it. I'm not going to complain about it because, like, I feel like I've discussed before that I personally, it doesn't bother me as long as it's done well and I am following along. Okay, as long as you don't switch heads within the paragraph. Okay, like between line after line, back and forth switching. That would be way too much, and I don't see you doing that. I'm just noting it. It doesn't mean I'm suggesting you do anything. I'm saying that I, as a reader, observed it. I, as your beta reader, observed a point of view switch. And that is to draw your attention to, did you do it intentionally? And if you did, great. Okay. I personally don't have as many hangups about it. I look for it and I point it out and I mention it to make sure that your story is in the point of view and in the tense that you intended. And also that I'm letting you know that I noticed it. But I'm also keeping an eye out for it because I know from my own writing experience that some, particularly publishers and agents and even some beta readers, don't like it and they'll get hung up on it. And so I feel obligated to point it out to make sure that I'm doing my job. Okay. But I, as a reader, accept it and I don't really have a problem with it, especially in my fan fiction. I do a lot of, I do point of view switch. I try to keep it between chapter and between characters and chapter. If I do one mid chapter, I kind of put the character's name and then I have the chapter. That's just kind of the method I use to keep it very straight as to who that I knew that I was switching a point of view and it was deliberate. Now, in my role play stories where I'm writing with two other writers, there's a lot of head hopping. I mean, it could be within a couple of paragraphs, but it's very clear who's speaking. And so I can accept it readily. It is, some people don't like it and will put a piece of work down over it. I find that it's also widely accepted in fantasy writing and in that kind of setting. So, or generally accepted. So with those notes in place and as little disclaimers as to why I'm pointing this out, I'm going to move on. Natalie saw the pained look on his face. Nothing made sense to her, but more so not to him. Hey, she said, putting a hand on his arm. Okay, when you're showing what she's doing, I don't want you to tell what she did too, because then it's redundant. So here we go. She said, and you're going to show her calm as she places the hand on his arm. So you're using her voice and her action to show me her state. Okay? It's all right. We can always go later if you change your mind, she yawned. Today has been crazy. Why don't we head back and we'll talk about it tomorrow, all right? She smiled up at him. He looked down at this wonderful little woman. The smile on her freckled face melted his fears. I'm kind of okay. Let's just mark it and keep going. All right. Making them so small and inconsequential. Are you sure? Also, this is a point of view switch again. So for the sake of how often you're doing it, I'm also going to notice it. And my notes are supposed to be over here. Again, I'm not going to comment further. You've got my whole disclaimer paragraph about it. We're going to keep moving. Are you sure you're okay with me staying with you? He asked. I don't want to be a burden. True, and while I'm not happy about that snap and running off with me, I know I can't just let someone that doesn't know where they are wander off. You'd get mugged in no time. I wouldn't really be upholding what the queens have stood queens. Oh, more than one queen. So Not that they're owning what they stood for, but that there is more than one queen. What the queens have stood for, if I didn't at least help someone that was in need. Queen Clarice, right? You really are a fan of hers, aren't you? Clara, but yes, I am. She stood for everyone in the kingdom. I hope I can be like her one day, Natalie said with a hopeful tone in her voice. But aren't you in your 20s, 24, 25? Close, I'm 23, and age doesn't matter. We should always look to better ourselves and help better others if we can. Now come on, I'll grab something for dinner. How much do you remember about cooking? Have any preferences? Just that burning means I won't get a parasite. Anything edible is good enough for me. Where is this dude from? Where is he from? Oh my gosh. I can't wait to find out. Okay, we got to keep going. That's great. I don't like to toot my horn, but I made an adequate pancake. They laughed, turning down the road. She was whisked. There's a redundant and down. You know what? I would say this. Turning down the road. Okay. Picking up potatoes, animal fat, a couple of onions and flour, they headed back to her home. I would say headed to her home. Rafe carried everything with ease. The entire way, neither noticed they had been right next to each other, arms touching as they talked. Okay. Little foreshadowing there. Let's see. Chapter 2, Part 5. How many minutes in? I've got like 5 minutes. I'm actually going to stop right here because it's a good place to pick up on the next video, and that way I don't stop in the middle of it. All right. So, with that, you've had all my musings throughout that little segment. It's a fun read. I'm super curious as to where these people came from. Obviously, their standards are pretty low, and I'm talking about the dudes falling from the sky. So, I'm wondering if the other dude is our villain now. There's been hint at that, so I'm wondering if I'm right. Maybe my author will comment and let us know. Or maybe they'll keep it a secret, and we have to keep reading to find out. Either way, we're hooked. So I'll see you guys next time on Mystery Red Reads.